Alright, so step number one was cutting back all the dead leaves from the sweet potato vines. And I got a nice pile here, and I'll simply add that to my mulch pile out front and let that help be the green material to decompose with the brown material. So now the next thing I want to do is I'm going to push the mulch off of this, and I'll just push the mulch off onto the surrounding area here for the walkway, because I can utilize that, and then I'll put a topping of fresh mulch on top after I'm done. So let me clear out the mulch, and then we'll start looking to see if we got any sweet potatoes. So here we go.
See my shadow?
Alright, so let's see if we have sweet potatoes this year. Last year we did them in this blue bucket here, and they did really well. But since we've upgraded the garden to the raised beds, we'll see if they do them any differently this year. So I've cleaned everything back, I've pulled back the mulch, and kind of right now we've exposed some sweet potatoes that were the initial plants where I planted the first plant. So where there was the plant, it looks like the sweet potato started to bubble up and make a sweet potato. So we know we got sweet potatoes here where the plants initially got planted. I did basically rows of 3 plants. Now the question is, did the sweet potatoes fill in the rest of the area, and how well they did. Last year we had a good harvest just in the plain buckets themselves. But how are we going to do now with a raised bed and maybe a little bit different dirt and nutrients? They had full sun. We planted these in about May, so they've had the whole summer of hot weather, and they did really good from the leaves. So I'm going to start with my hands and pull them up. I don't want to dig in with the fork. I don't want to damage them. Let's see if we can do it by hand here. Okay, so the irrigation system is here too, so they probably wrapped around and about the irrigation system. So this is one big kind of root mass, and that's where the plant was. So let's see if we can pull that up here. Okay, so here's like a little node, a little nodule. So there's one sweet potato. Okay, we'll put it over here, and we'll put them in the bucket probably. So then here's the initial plant with the roots coming off of it. We won't do anything with that, but here is a main node from that one plant. It kind of made one big sweet potato and started to wrap around itself right here in this area. But as you see here, I've pulled this sweet potato out. It looks like the roots were going underneath that, so it looks like there's some more sweet potatoes. Now the question is, I don't want to break the sweet potatoes as I'm pulling them out. The dirt's good. The dirt's pretty loose. It's a little wet though because of the moisture. But here is another node off of that plant. So that's a odd shaped sweet potatoes. They're not like you get them in the store. They grow naturally, which means all sorts of different shapes and sizes. So let's go ahead here to dig out around this and see what we have. In there pretty good. They started to looks like compact around each other really, and I could move some of the irrigation here out of the way because I can always relay that down. So let's take the irrigation out of there so we can get around some of this. Okay. Alright, so let's kind of push some of this dirt back around and see what we have here. Lots of root structure here. So when you pull out and harvest your sweet potatoes, you have to let them cure a little bit. That's because the skin needs to toughen up around them. Wow, these are, even though the dirt is pretty loose, this guy is really tight in there around how the root kind of wound around. Wow, look at that. Digging almost to the bottom of the bed depth just to get this one mass of sweet potatoes. Here's like the little stem off of it. Okay, now it's starting to loosen up a little bit. Alright, oh, it kind of broke there. Okay, that was going pretty deep in there. Probably the same with this one here. It's growing vertical, and I don't really want to damage them as I pull them out. Wow. This is... That's a really... You can feel the root in there. It's very tight. Let's loosen this up. Okay. Wow, people. That one grew vertically straight down. That's a large sweet potato. Boy, that's why it was so hard to get that one. And then the other ones, this was stuck because that guy was there. So here we are pulling the sweet potatoes out from this main structure here. There they go. Here's some of the little ancillary roots that was growing. Lots of nodes from the roots. If we put that back in the ground, there'll probably be another sweet potato next year. And this guy comes out a little bit easier now. Okay, so the question is, do they go further down? And there's that one that broke off that little stem piece. I got it. There it is. That's that little stem piece off the one. Wow, folks, if that took all that effort just to get one of the plant sweet potatoes out, that's crazy. Because there's lots more in here. Alright, so let's go ahead and move some of the irrigation system again out of the way so we won't have that to contend with. And again, I kind of can see where the original plant is because the stem is still here. And it's a really thick stem, and so the sweet potatoes started to grow, you know, out from that. So as I push the dirt more down back in that hole, let's see what we have here. So this is the mother plant, and you can see it had just a little guy there. Okay, but it was creating around it this additional root structures here. Now the intent was to have a raised bed because that's the way our garden is back here, and give the sweet potatoes more room because they all did clobber up on each other when they were in the containers, which was great, but you figure with an expanded bed the roots are more free to go where they want to, and that's a nice sweet potato. How about that? Okay, all right, and then here is another sweet potato that looks like it's grown a little vertical, and the ground is really good. It's loose and it's moist from the recent rain and the mulch and everything on there, but it's nice dirt to kind of grow in. I had some nice medium here. All right, this guy looks like he went down and went sideways. Here we go. Little end, the root end came off. So there we go there, and there's of course a big hole once you free them up. All right, so here's the other plant, and we move the irrigation out of the way. Okay. Now this is the other plant because you can see the big root there, and as I push the dirt down back this way, we can see another large mass of sweet potatoes. Wow, folks. It's interesting how they kind of maintain themselves into this one area. Look at that. That's off the plant, how it started to grow roots down, and then it did that number. Interesting how they grow. Okay, we'll put that there. And we'll push away the dirt and look down here. By the way, these are Beauregard sweet potatoes, if you're wanting to know the variety. And we grew them last year, and this year we just got them at our local Lowe's. They seem to have that variety every year. I'm sure we could probably go grow other varieties, but that's the only ones I had, and that's the ones I grew. So there we go. So there it is. So you can see that the root structure was pretty massive in some. Look at that. And they, even though they had all this area to grow, they still kind of stayed in the same area here. Here's another nice one. You know, sometimes you can go really deep here and find hidden sweet potatoes that grew down, down, down. So that's where I can get my shovel in, because I can feel the roots down here even further. It's a pretty deep bed, to be honest with you. Okay, so this is what we pulled up so far. 3 plants in a row here, just on this side. And 3 plants produced all these sweet potatoes here. That's a pretty good yield, I think, because if all 3 plants did just that on this one corner of the bed, then what did all the 3 plants in the rest of the bed do? Did it do as good? So what we'll do here is we will start digging up the rest of this bed, and we'll take some videos afterwards to kind of show you how many sweet potatoes we pulled out of here, because you don't have to watch us pull out each one of these sweet potatoes, but kind of the progress as we go along. So that's the first 3 plants, and that's a good return of sweet potatoes. We'll do the rest and we'll check back with you. Alright, so we've gone ahead to pull out all the potatoes that we think were there, and we got basically one full blue bucket full of sweet potatoes. So what we'll do is we'll go take them off now, give them a wash, and then spread them out, and then we'll start to let them cure. Alright, so we're going to wash off the dirt off the sweet potatoes, and then we'll put them out on this plastic over here and see how they did. I think this year there's more large sweet potatoes than small sweet potatoes, and some of them may look like this bug or somebody started to eat them, so we'll have to watch out for some of the ends if somebody's eating them, or if there's any little worms in some of them. Unfortunately, there's always bugs to deal with when you're growing things, and well, they may try to get in there and eat some of our sweet potatoes. So we'll wash these off, and then we'll take a look at how we did. Alright, so here is the sweet potato harvest for this year. I think this year we got a few more potatoes than growing them in the bins because they had more room. But if anything, they're bigger potatoes this year than what they were last year. Last year we had more of the smaller shape because the container, you know, has a limitation. So for those that are much bigger, you know, the plant had more room to grow. They pretty much stayed local to where I planted it, so they didn't really spread and run. You know, wherever the plant was, the nodes kind of grew down from that main plant. So I guess maybe if you have a large garden bed like this, don't expect the potatoes to migrate out all over the bed. They're still localized to where you put the plant. So even if you did put them in containers, they were only going to grow in a smaller area anyways, which probably means then I could have spaced them even closer together than what I did, you know, when I planted them in May, where I was keeping some room thinking, well, they need room to spread. I probably could have put another 6 to 12 plants in that area just so that they could grow more sweet potatoes. The other thing is some of the sweet potatoes look like they have little wormholes. We did have army worms this year that were invading all over. It was a bad year, so maybe they could have been nibbling on some of that, or grubs or something like that. So when you cut open your sweet potatoes, you might just want to make sure there's no worms inside of the sweet potatoes. Make sure that the damage was just superficial on the outside of the skin. So now we're just going to let these cure a little bit, dry off. We'll make them cure. We'll take them into the garage, put them in a cool place, and then we'll eat them for Thanksgiving and make all sorts of things with them. So that's our second year of a sweet potato harvest, and they seem to grow pretty well. So we'll make some more videos here later on.